The Gods Will Have Blood by Anatole, France. Book review. This is a story about an idealistic young artist named Gamillion, who is appointed as magistrate during the French Revolution in the days of the Terror, and quickly becomes sucked into the bloodshed and turns into a monster himself. Now, the author, Anatole France, was not an anti-revolutionary. He was a member of the French Socialist Party, and in his day, he was a supporter of the Russian Revolution, at least in its early days. So the story is not about the evils of revolution, but it's about how good ideals, when not tempered by a sense of humanity, can turn people into monsters. In many ways, it is the same story of Robespierre, and the story arc of the main character, Gamillion, parallels Robespierre. In other words, he kind of rises when Robespierre is rising, and he falls when Robespierre is falling. Despite the complexity of the human problems under discussion in this book, subtlety is a bit out the window. The path that Gamillion takes from idealist to monster is kind of in such a straight line, you could almost plot it on a graph if you wanted to make a chart of this book. And yet, it still stands as a good insight into how the original humanist ideals of the French Revolution went so horribly wrong. Now, the French Revolution, like all historical events, is one that's very simple if you just describe it in brief, and gets very confusing if you want to get into all the details. For example, A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens presents it as very simple, just kind of the poor rising up against the aristocracy. The Gods Will Have Blood, being written by a French person, is slightly more complex, and it deals with some of the power struggles within the French Revolution itself, such as the struggle between the Girondists and the Jacobins, which culminate in the fall of Robespierre. The point of the book, though, is not really history, so you never get bogged down too much by the politics. If you have a vague idea of who Robespierre is, I think you'll be all right to follow the history of the book. Actually, even if you don't, most of the history is in the background anyways, so it shouldn't interfere with you understanding the main storyline.